Hi, this is Mike Swanson of Wall Street Window. Made a short trip over to Andy Emerson's house. We've both known each other for a long time, traded the markets for a long time, and there's a lot of stuff that's been going on the past couple weeks we thought, we probably should talk about.
Yeah, I tell you, Mike, it's been a pretty interesting 3-4 weeks here with the commodity stocks and the general market. Right now we both are kind of looking at the commodity stocks pretty hard and looking for a possible trade there. I know a lot of people have gotten really shook up on the gold stocks and oil stocks also.
Well, when you look at the gold stocks, we've had this big correction the past couple weeks, and a few weeks ago, back when the HUI was about 400 or so, I tried to buy in there and thought it bottomed, and then I got stopped out a couple days later, and it fell, and I was thinking, well, the HUI might fall to 390 or 385 or something, and of course it's fallen quite a bit more than that. Gold went below $800 an ounce last week, and this drop took me by surprise. I mean, I didn't hold all the way down, but still it was pretty something to watch, and knowing lots of people are holding and getting beat up in it. But this is really, if you look back the past 30 years, there's only two drops this quick that are comparable. One was for gold stocks. One was 1987. The other one was in 2002. And we both remember the 2002 correction because that was the first gold stock correction that we went through. Because we bought, that I think February or March or something. I remember you called me on the phone and told me these gold stocks looked like the best thing I'd ever seen in the stock market, and we rode that up for a couple months and doubled our money, and then in July just about lost everything we'd made a very tiny profit on it.
Yeah, that was a tough learning experience. I remember calling you saying, I said I'm not really experienced on these gold stocks, I said, but I remember trying to get your attention, saying they're some of the best looking things I've ever seen technically, and I'm loading up in them. And make a long story short, it wasn't just 4 or 5 months later, I was all excited, and I figured I was going to hold my gold stocks. I was going to get rich on these things, and next thing you know, I'm selling out for barely a break-even trade. And what's funny about that, which is kind of similar to what we're seeing now, is I sold one day before the bottom, and 2-3 months later they were back on their highs, and I wasn't in it. And I remember just being just really shocked at how that had happened and the experience, and said I would never forget it. And I guess that's just part of trading gold stocks and commodity stocks in general and everything. It was just a lesson, and which I've carried that lesson for many years now. And here we are now at a point where I don't believe the gold bull run is over just yet. And I still believe that this sell-off right here, just looking at it technically, is going to probably turn out to be a great buying opportunity. And that's for the short term or the long term. Any way you want to trade it.
Yeah.
I'm getting kind of excited about it.
Well, the thing about it right now is, like I said, they dropped so much, and we'll talk about some of the indicators we're looking at. But if they, since that time in 2002, when you told me, you called me on the phone and said, "Oh, this is the best thing since sliced bread for the stock market," or whatever. It's been in a secular bull market since then, and probably, I have to go back and make sure, but I know at one point the gold stocks had gone up more than anything, more than the tech stocks, and then the oil stocks at one point they asserted some leadership. But anyway, if they're still in a secular bull market, then this is probably the best buying opportunity we've seen since then, really. Since you said, we got out, and then the next day,
it bottomed. It's taken me several years to kind of get over it, and I guess I'm over it now, Mike. But
we've played plenty of rallies and stuff in the gold stocks.
Yes, we have, and a few other little sectors. When the oil sector got pretty hot, we made some pretty nice trades on that when it was breaking out and everything. And like you just said, the gold sector in general, I think the bull market is still intact, and even if it wasn't, you're going to see some. I think you're going to see some sort of a 50-60% retracement of the sell-off here, and maybe in 6 months, 10 months down the road, the gold sector makes new lows, and if so, then we're entering a bear phase, excuse me. on the gold sector, but I'd have to, right now at these levels, I'd have to be a buyer.
No, I kind of got the same kind of outlook too, that we should get a retracement of the May high, the loss from the May high to the, or was it March? The March high for the gold
March
stocks.
high.
S&P had topped out in May.
Right.
But the March high to the July bottom, and either 50% or 2/3 retracement, that would take it, the HUI way above 400, and from here, I mean, that's a big gain.
That
return from right here.
Yes, it would be, Mike. I just to pick out a few stocks, I was looking at AUI and KGC, GG. Several of the stocks are in, basically the volatility shrinking here, and I believe we're getting ready to see a huge upside. I'm not exactly sure how the gold stocks are going to trade out of this bottom, but it's a good chance. The longer we base here in this bottom, I think the better the explosion that we can have coming out of this bottom, and maybe we can go a little bit higher than most people think. It just looks like an excellent trade to me, and watching the volatility shrink at these levels, and another note that that really excites me, and we made a couple intraday alerts on the website, is when we were seeing the metal crash making new lows, and the gold stocks are actually showing.
Well, especially last week, I think, was it two? I know the very bottom on the gold stocks.
7-8 days ago was.
It was a Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, it would put us back around that time frame. It was just the gold stocks basically led the metal down in big fashion. And,
since they topped in March, but especially since the HUI broke 400, it accelerated.
Yes, it did, and right there at the end, the only thing, it kind of goes back, about 3-4 years ago, we would always sit around and wait for gold stocks to drop, and they would, and then we would sit around and say, okay, we're just going to wait for the metal to crash and the stocks not drop anymore, and we would just pile in.
And the reason that's important is because the stocks tend to lead what happens in the metal.
Yes.
So when the stocks act better than the metal, that's bullish, and
yes,
when they underperform, that's bearish. And during that drop, we saw they were underperforming until the final day. I mean, the stocks would be down like 3 to 4% a day. One day, I think they're down 5%.
5-6%. Yeah.
And then what was interesting was that, I mean, that didn't stop until the very bottom for the stocks. The last week, one morning the stocks were down pretty good on the open, and then I don't remember the exact numbers, but gold fell a little bit, but the stocks were down a lot more. And then all of a sudden, around 11 o'clock, gold just plummeted 20 or 30 extra dollars.
Yeah.
Gold was like down 10 on the open, and the stocks were down. And then around 11, gold fell another like $30, but the stocks hardly dropped at all.
Actually, they were trying to trend up.
Yeah, and ever since then, up as we're talking now, since then to now, the stocks have been actually outperforming gold on a we're watching it real closely now on a intraday chart, but there'll be times when in 30 minutes gold's down, but the stocks aren't down as much, or
right.
So far they've been maintaining that, and there may be a day or two where that doesn't happen, but when you see that, I think that's a real classic sign that there's a bottom that's being put in place. Whether that bottom was made a week ago for the stocks and for the metal, or it's possible we get to see the metal slip down and test the low, and the stocks test their lows and bounce back up. But either way, the bottom line is it seems like there's some sort of bottom being put in place, and if that's the case, then within the next week they should be turning up, starting to rally, and that's what you're seeing some signs suggesting the volatility was shrinking.
The volatility is shrinking here in this range really nicely, and I was just noticing just today that at one point the metal was down $10-12, and the gold stocks were barely down at all again. And here we got gold, slipping back near its lows just a little bit from just the day before, which was a very very good up day. And here again, we're barely seeing the gold stocks pressured at all. And talking about the relative strength, the gold stocks leading the metal down. I remember we used to really trade that 2-3 years ago. Back in 03-04, that was really big, and we really zoomed in on that particular type trade. And then in the last year and a half, some of the characteristics that had been working in '03, '04, '05 started to change. And it really threw us off just a little bit. And it always seems in trading that when something becomes, it's just familiar and everybody recognizes it and starts trading a certain way to a certain characteristics of a trade, it no longer works. And then all of a sudden, you might go a year or two and then those characteristics come back, and that's exactly what we saw with this major sell-off in the gold stocks and then the metal getting crushed. The last couple of days, the metal was down, I believe, $60, $65 in a couple of days total. And I was really impressed with the stocks at that point. And, nobody's certain of anything. But I don't know if this is going to turn out to be a long-term buy point or this is just going to turn out to be just a really good trade. But if I was an investor and I wanted gold stocks, if me personally, I would be taking my position. And, there's just about, I could name 10 of them, and we put those on the website all the time and talk about them. But I think there's some pretty, golden opportunity here.
Well, one thing I want to bring up too is something else that used to follow quite a bit and kind of stopped following the past couple of years is this brought with me. It's Commitment of Traders report.
Yeah, yes.
And this is comes out every Friday, but its data is based on the close on the previous Tuesday. And what it is, it's a report of the number of short and long positions held in the futures market for gold by both commercial traders and smaller so-called speculators. But the smaller people, they're not really that small. They include hedge funds and big traders too. But the commercials tend to be banks or gold companies hedging positions, people that are using this to not so much to make bets on what the price is going to do, but to use it to hedge actual physical metal positions that they have. But historically, what's happened in the past is that the speculator people tend to be wrong at important market tops and bottoms. At tops, they're way too long, and at bottoms, they end up, liquidating their long positions in a panic washout. And then the commercials tend to short and keep adding on to their short positions when gold rallies. But then when it declines and has a major bottom, they end up covering those positions. And the thing about that, though, is this is something we used to follow pretty closely in the past, because there's a real trend where when the commercials were net short 75 to about 100,000 contracts, a bottom was put in.
Yeah, you could bank on it.
Yeah, and then, I don't remember how many times it happened, 5 or 6 times in a couple of years.
Yes.
But starting about 2 or 3 years ago, that never lined up again, because the commercials just continually added to their positions as gold went up, and they never really covered up until really the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, now that you bring that up, we've been following that here, just kind of checking in on those numbers here recently, and I'm kind of excited to see. I believe that if we can get down to around 100 to 120 net short, at this point in time, and maybe under 100 on the net short with the commercials, like you were saying, it just basically, you got to feel that we're getting ready to see some type of a bounce in the metal.
Well, I think we're probably just about there, because this report was for last Tuesday, not this Tuesday, but August the 5th.
What was the net short position then?
Well, they had covered 44,000 contracts going into that day, and that includes, that not the final bottom for gold, but the one where the gold stocks appear to bottom.
Right, they missed a couple days. A couple big days in the metal they missed.
But they were about 150 then, and I'm guessing they've probably covered anywhere from 30 to 50 since then. So we're probably between 90 and 110 right now.
That'd be pretty awesome.
So that's a level that hasn't been seen in years.
Yeah, 2-3 years.
Several years, yeah.
It looks like we're just basically getting a great opportunity here to take a chance at the gold bull run again. And seeing something set up and set itself up as far as investing in either the metal or the stocks. I'm excited about it. I'm really excited. Right here in the immediate future, in the next 2-3 days, I think we might be in agreement in this. We're looking for some type of pause here, maybe for a day or two, and the longer we pause here, probably the better.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the better the upside, and just want more base here. Let the volatility shrink. A lot of people know that I trade, a lot by the 20-day moving average, and the 20-day moving average is really sneaking down on top of this trade. I'd love to see this thing consolidate here, let the 20 get down on everything, and a breakthrough through the 20. And I believe we might really have something here. And really, Mike, I'm not sure exactly how I'd trade this, but I believe it's possible that by November, December, this trade might really surprise people where it might end up at. I've said 2 or 3 times in the past 5 or 6 years that I thought the gold stocks had taken a beating, and they were clearly below their long-term moving averages, and I just said I just don't see how they can bottom here. There's so much damage, and really put on any really significant type of bounce. And you know what? 3-4 months later, I'm not in it half the time, and there it is, sitting back near its highs, and I was just in amazement. Like wow. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think we got a great opportunity right here, a low risk, high reward type trade. And we'll see what happens.
No, it's going to be real interesting to see how it unfolds, and also we'll be looking at the rest of the market too over the next couple of weeks. So, still looking for some sort of short position in the broad market, and I'm short bonds. I might add on to that too, but we'll leave that for another discussion or writings or whatever. And probably gave the people a lot to think about today is where it comes to the gold stocks. But this is really, right now, I think the most important thing to talk about.
Yeah, and I tell you one other quick note about commodities. It looks like to me that oil's trying to base out right here and consolidate in this range. And oil's still above its 150-day moving average, which is still trending up. And I know everybody's really turning bearish. I've never seen so much bearish news. I'd click on a few websites and take a look at the news as far as commodities, and buddy, I'm going to tell you, 100%, 95% of everybody's calling for the the bull market in commodities is over. I've never seen so much negative news. I think you and I talked about it a few days ago. They're just ringing bells, and me being a contrarian and knowing how to trade, it looks like a good opportunity, and I think the oil and the oil sector itself might surprise people also by the end of this year.
Well, people don't want that kind of surprise.
No.
It's funny though, you think about the oil though, just the general public, forget about the stock market, how everyone has been talking about, getting hurt at the gas pump, and everyone's complaining about how high gas prices, but I'm just thinking the past couple of weeks I haven't heard anything like that. People have forgotten about gas prices.
Yeah.
Seems like, although they haven't really gone down much.
No, they haven't. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here in the next 2-3 months. as far as oil goes, I don't think oil has to go back up to $150 a barrel. Oil could be in a range for 6 months here between 100, 110, and 150, and and break out again. And I know oil's tied to the U.S. dollar and all that type of stuff, and I know the dollar's put on a nice little bounce here. But if I had to put a bet on the dollar, I would have to say that within 3, 4, 5 months, the dollar's working itself into a position to possibly start working itself lower to test its lows again. And if that's the case, if you're bullish on the dollar, then you're somewhat bearish on commodities over the long haul. And by no means do I believe the dollar is going to actually go into a bull market. And a quick note about gold is I believe it was back in 2005. Was it 2005 when the dollar put on a real nice bounce? And the gold stocks, this is what happened. I knew the dollar was putting in some type of bottom and was going to rally, Mike. And I actually sold my gold position knowing that the dollar was going to go up more. And what happened? Gold stocks went up the whole time the dollar was going up. 2005, I believe it was 2005, was one of the best runs in gold stocks. And I'm not in it because I was watching the dollar. Go figure that.
Well, the gold stocks are like months ahead. They may fall at first when the dollar goes up, but they seem like what we found is that, they go up way before the dollar tops out.
Exactly. So there again, I know a lot of people have been talking about the dollar strength, and why hold gold or holding oil or trying to invest in commodity stocks, oil, gold, when you're going to have a strong dollar, because everybody's calling for the bottom in the dollar also. And I just believe that in 6 months you'll be looking at a dollar that's topping out, if not even sooner than that. And And that's when it's going to get interesting. When the dollar works its way back down, it's going to get real interesting. But to wrap things up, Mike, thanks for coming over. I enjoyed
sure.
it, buddy. And look forward to talking about the market a
And
little
we'll talk
bit.
to all these people too again sometime in the future.
Yep, sounds great. Thanks for having me.